The wind always seems to shift when a December Capricorn enters the room, as if the air itself recognizes a soul that learned endurance long before it learned its own name. Your footsteps have always carried a strange gravity, the kind that makes people look up, pause, whisper that they feel something around you they can't explain but cannot ignore. And even now, as this story begins, that same gravity is moving again, stirring something ancient inside you that has been waiting too long to be acknowledged. And in the quiet of that recognition, a shadow steps behind you, watching, observing, waiting for the moment you finally turn toward the truth you've been avoiding. Though you can already feel it breathing against the back of your neck. You were never given a gentle beginning, not the soft sunrise other signs take for granted, but a winter dawn, cold and demanding, where the world doesn't bend for you, you bend for it. And that bending has shaped you into something unbreakable, though no one knows the cost except your ribs, which remember every silent night you held yourself together because there was no one else to do it for you, and every time you thought the weight might crush you, it didn't. And that survival carved a doorway inside you that you have never fully dared to open. There's a certain heaviness that follows December-born souls, the kind that enters the room before they do, a quiet authority born from all the storms they weathered alone, and people sense it without understanding it, the same way they sensed it in the Rock when he was still unknown, carrying the ghost of every hardship behind his eyes, as if preparing for a throne he couldn't yet see, and the same invisible crown sits on you now, humming with a destiny that grows louder each day you try to ignore it. Pressing against your consciousness like a heartbeat just beneath the skin. Your life has always unfolded like a series of mountains. Some you climbed, some you crawled across, and some tried to bury you entirely. But each one left you with another scar, another piece of wisdom, another layer of resilience, and though you've walked with quiet steps, every stone under your feet remembers the weight of your perseverance, and even the storms recognized you, shifting their winds as if offering both challenge and respect, and that strange recognition is returning now, pulling at your spirit with a force you can no longer dismiss. People think you are strong because you appear calm, but they never saw the nights you whispered your pain into pillows soaked with unspoken prayers, or the mornings you woke up with a cracked spirit, but still moved, as if nothing inside you was breaking, and that quiet endurance mirrors the ancient stories. The way Moses carried a burden too heavy for one man, or the way David fought battles no one believed he could survive. Each one chosen not because of their ease, but because the weight they carried required a soul forged in hardship, and you, too, were chosen in that same difficult way, marked by storms instead of blessings, shaped by shadows instead of comfort. You've always felt older than your age, as if your childhood ended before it began, replaced by responsibilities no one else was ready to hold, and that early initiation into adulthood carved a hardness in you, not the cold kind but the protective kind, the kind that holds families together, the kind that sacrifices silently, the kind that keeps moving even when your legs tremble, and this silent strength has become your greatest shield and your heaviest chain at the same time, binding you to roles you never asked for but accepted because you had no other choice. Something in you learned to walk with silence, an inner quiet that makes people trust you, follow you, lean on you, confide in you, even when you've lost faith in your own ability to carry one more burden. And that silence, though it protects you, also isolates you, leaving you somewhere between needed and unseen, respected and misunderstood. And this duality echoes through your spirit like an unanswered prophecy, reminding you that your path was never meant to be ordinary. Even when you try to shrink into simplicity to escape the weight of your calling. There were seasons in your life when the world closed its doors on you, when opportunities slipped through your fingers, when people you loved disappeared without explanation, leaving you with locked rooms inside your memory that you still haven't dared to enter. Yet every closed door sharpened your instincts, taught you patience, built a strategic intuition that others mistake for coldness, not knowing it was born from survival, not choice, and those very instincts are stirring again, pulling you towards something that feels like a warning and a promise intertwined. Sometimes the universe communicates with you through timing, delays, and isolation, not to punish you but to position you the same way Joseph was positioned through betrayal, the same way he was thrown into darkness before being raised into unimaginable power, and your life carries the same rhythm, setbacks that are not setbacks but preparations, losses that are not losses but divine rearrangements. And every part of your spirit knows this, because every time you were pushed to the edge, something hidden inside you awakened, something ancient, something that does not break. The people around you rarely understand your resilience. It confuses them, intimidates them, sometimes even pushes them away, because they see the surface of your strength but never the depth of your scars, and that misunderstanding has shaped the way you love, the way you trust, the way you protect your heart with walls so high that even you don't know how to climb them anymore. Yet behind those walls lives a tenderness so rare it could melt iron if anyone was patient enough to find it. A tenderness that keeps you human despite everything you've endured. Every December Capricorn carries a shadow, a hidden part of themselves forged in the years they spent pretending everything was fine, and this shadow is not destructive. It is protective, a guardian formed from every disappointment, every betrayal, every moment you realized you could rely only on yourself. And this shadow is awakening now, rising from the depths of your spirit, because something in your environment is shifting, something you sensed before it even arrived. The same way animals sense earthquakes before the ground begins to shake. You move through the world with an unspoken wisdom, the kind forged through watching, listening, surviving, adapting, and that wisdom gives you an almost prophetic sense about people, about danger, about opportunity, about timing, and though you rarely speak on it, your accuracy is unsettling even to you, because you often know the truth before you're ready to accept it, and that intuitive tension is pulling at you now, vibrating through your consciousness like a distant alarm that grows louder each time you try to ignore it. There have been moments in your life where you stood at the edge of something, an unmade decision, an unseen opportunity, an unspoken truth. And each time, the universe sent signs, small and quiet at first, then louder, then impossible to dismiss. And you've reached another one of those edges now, even if you haven't named it yet, even if you've tried to distract yourself from it, even if you've pretended not to feel the shift humming beneath your ribs, waiting for you to acknowledge it. Your spirit has always recognized the difference between delay and denial, between rejection and redirection, between endings and transformations, and though you may not always trust yourself, your inner voice has never lied, not even once, and that voice is whispering to you again with the same tone it used the night you made the decision that changed everything, the night you realized you were done shrinking yourself to fit into rooms that were too small for your destiny. There is a mountain in your story, not a literal one, but a spiritual one, an obstacle that repeats, a pattern that returns, a fear that grips you, a lesson that circles back every time you think you've outgrown it. And this mountain is rising again, casting its shadow over your thoughts, its silhouette appearing in the distance of your dreams, reminding you that unfinished journeys never disappear. They wait silently until you're strong enough to face them. Your resilience has always scared people who benefit from your softness, because they know that when a Capricorn stops tolerating, the entire structure of their life changes, and this shift, this internal earthquake, is beginning inside you now, shaking loose the old beliefs, old attachments, old limitations you've carried for too long. And though the world around you hasn't noticed yet, your spirit has, your body has, the air around you has. And the path ahead of you is preparing to open in a way it never has before. You've lived through betrayals that would have destroyed softer spirits, through storms that tore apart people who had more support than you did, through disappointments that could have turned your heart cold, yet you remained soft in the places that mattered, and this softness is not weakness. It's sacred, rare, powerful, and this sacred softness is what the universe protects in you more fiercely than you realize, because it is the key to your next season. There's a door coming toward you, not one you open, but one that opens toward you, a door with a sound you've heard before in another lifetime, a door carved from something ancient, glowing faintly with a light you can almost see if you close your eyes long enough, and behind that door is something you've prayed for in silence, something you forgot you asked for, something you believed was impossible until recently, but that door does not open until one final shift happens inside you. A shift that is already beginning now. You've reached a point in your journey where your past no longer has permission to follow you, but it's clinging to the edges of your spirit, trying to pull you back into familiar pain, familiar roles, familiar patterns, and this is the moment where your shadow steps forward, not to harm you, but to stand beside you as the guardian it was always meant to be, and its presence changes everything: the path, the energy, the timing, the destiny unfolding around you. Remain close now, because the air in your story is thickening, the spiritual pressure rising like a storm preparing its final strike, the atmosphere shifting in a way that always precedes a breakthrough. And if your spirit feels this awakening, it's because your entire life has been building toward a moment that is no longer approaching. It is here, pressing against your reality like a heartbeat that doesn't belong to this world. Your next revelation is forming, gathering, rising from the core of your destiny, and just before it comes through, just before the truth unveils itself, just before the path transforms beneath your feet, something ancient inside you begins to speak, whispering the first word of a prophecy you were always meant to hear. But the moment it reaches your consciousness, the entire atmosphere around you shifts, because what's coming next is something your spirit has been waiting your whole life to finally remember. The shadow has always followed you, silent and patient, waiting in corners of rooms no one else notices, slipping along walls when the light falls wrong, settling into your mind when the world grows too loud. And though you have walked 1,000 paths thinking yourself alone, it has always been there, tracing your steps with the careful precision of a clockwork ghost, marking every moment that the weight of responsibility left you breathless, every instance where your spirit bent without breaking. Every second you carried burdens that were never meant to be yours. There are energies in your life that recognize this shadow. They pause, hesitate, and often retreat, sensing that it knows more than the world will ever confess, that it guards a key to a door you have not yet dared to touch, a door whose hinges have never cried beneath human hands. If your spirit feels this awakening, stay close, for the key it guards is beginning to turn. The winds of your destiny have never been gentle, nor have they whispered assurances. They have slammed against you, testing your ability to endure, and in the midst of such storms, you learned an invisible discipline that no classroom, no mentor, no manual could ever teach. Dwayne Johnson was once homeless, sleeping on floors and dreaming of a future that mocked him with delay, yet his persistence, measured and relentless, mirrored the Capricorn path of silent endurance. Every December-born Capricorn carries a similar ledger of quiet struggle, a record etched not in ink, but in the sinew of the soul, where every hardship leaves an imprint that will, in time, become a blueprint for triumph, a scaffold for a destiny the world cannot predict. And now, that scaffold is shifting under your fingertips, vibrating with energy you are only beginning to sense. You have walked corridors of expectation that were never truly yours, threading through rooms that demanded sacrifices invisible to the eyes of others. There are seasons when your achievements are minimized, when the applause does not reach your ears, when the victories seem hollow because no one understands the cost paid in silence and solitary nights. This is the rhythm of December Capricorns, to climb in shadow, to rise without recognition, to persist without fanfare. Martin Luther King Jr., a soul forged under relentless pressure, bore the burden of a nation while maintaining the composure of a spirit that knew unseen support. Your life mirrors such quiet, monumental endurance. The moments when you held a world together, even when it seemed nothing would hold you in return. And this is the heartbeat that is now quickening, pressing you toward a realization that is both frightening and inevitable. The mountains you have faced are not only in the external world, but inside your own psyche, towering cliffs of self-doubt, jagged edges of fear, crevices of unresolved grief. These peaks demanded you crawl, leap, and sometimes lie flat against cold stone to survive, and yet each ascent left something behind: an intuition, a resilience, a signal you could interpret when no guide was near. There is a pattern here, a cadence that repeats with the inevitability of the tides. Storms arrive, burdens press, shadows expand, and then you rise, each time with more clarity, more precision, more quiet authority. The unseen forces around you are stirring. Your path is no longer merely a series of struggles, but a careful alignment of preparation. And in this alignment, something approaches that will test everything you thought you had mastered. You have carried keys you never realized were yours. They dangle in your pockets of perception, invisible to others, heavy with potential, forged in the fires of circumstance you did not choose, but survived anyway. Oprah Winfrey spent years in deprivation, rejection, and despair before she was positioned for influence, the likes of which the world will never forget. Each December Capricorn holds their own invisible key, a talisman crafted from resilience, insight, and a willingness to remain steadfast when the doors around them were locked, when the world declared nothing possible, when even hope seemed to falter. This key is awakening within you now, its metallic whisper vibrating in the marrow of your bones, a quiet call that something extraordinary is coming. There is a shadow in every achievement, a tension in every moment of recognition. You have seen this pattern repeated through history, leaders, prophets, builders of legacies, all walking a narrow path, balancing on unseen edges while carrying invisible weights. Moses bore a nation's hopes while struggling with his own limitations. David faced giants while nursing unhealed wounds. LeBron James carried teams through seasons that would have broken lesser spirits. December-born Capricorns internalize this same tension, this duality between strength and vulnerability, between the brilliance the world sees and the silent endurance the world cannot. The quiet pressure you feel now is not mere coincidence. It is the echo of a rhythm older than your consciousness, calling you to recognize that the climb was never random, that the shadows you have carried were preparing you for this very moment. Every door in your life that seemed closed has been a mirror of your readiness, a test of perception and patience. Opportunities have been delayed, hearts have been withheld, circumstances have shifted in ways that seemed cruel, yet the universe is never careless with those who endure. There is a timing embedded in every hardship, a hidden choreography in the pattern of challenges, and as your awareness grows, the walls of resistance begin to tremble. Your spirit is recognizing the difference between what is withheld and what is postponed, between what is denial and what is preparation, and the subtle vibration in the air around you is intensifying, signaling that a threshold is about to be crossed. Your emotional landscape has been mapped by storms, by grief, by love that came and went, by responsibilities too large for a single shoulder, and through this topography you have developed a depth that most will never reach. That depth, while isolating, has also become a conduit for prophecy. The human eye cannot see the full weight of what you carry, but your soul perceives the invisible currents, the energies converging, the precise moment when patience will become power, endurance will become influence, and the storms will serve not as trials but as conduits for elevation. This inner knowledge is stirring now, awakening in a subtle hum beneath the skin, the vibration of a life on the cusp of revelation. Every Capricorn has known the silent fear of letting others down, of failing where the world expects perfection, of carrying burdens that appear invisible yet crush the spirit. These fears, however, have been incubators for strategy, for insight, for an uncanny precision in perception. The lessons of history whisper through your veins. Those who endure quietly, who calculate, who persist without applause, eventually possess a mastery unmatched by those who rushed or demanded immediate recognition. The patterns of your life, long unobserved, are converging now into a singular moment where the inner and outer align, and the air around you begins to quiver with anticipation, as if the universe itself is leaning closer to see how you will respond. Your love has always been tempered with discretion. The people who enter your orbit sense both your power and your restraint, the careful boundaries you set, the way you guard your heart as if it were sacred, because it is. You have given more than you have received, and in that imbalance, a mysterious force has been cultivating your ability to discern truth, to sense motives, to anticipate outcomes. This subtle training, forged in shadows and silence, is now being called upon, converging with every door, every key, every shadow you have navigated, forming a constellation of purpose, one that is reaching toward a climax your conscious mind can barely hold. The mountain of your destiny is still ahead, higher than any you have faced, shadowed by every unhealed wound and every unresolved longing. It is the mountain you were born to climb, the one that cannot be bypassed, the one whose peak holds a perspective invisible to those below. Each step up that mountain requires a shedding of old fears, a quiet courage, and an intimate knowledge of your own power, and though your legs may tremble and your heart may protest, your spirit already knows the path, even when your mind cannot yet see it, and there is a force moving within the rocks, the air, the very energy around you, preparing to open a passage that has always been waiting for your arrival. There is a storm gathering, not only around you but within you, a storm that will sweep away old patterns, dissolve the illusions of limitation, and reveal the structure of your spirit's true purpose. It carries whispers of the ancient and eternal, reminders of those who walked similar paths before you, and though it threatens, it also sanctifies, for through storms, mountains, and shadows, the Capricorn spirit discovers its invincibility. You can feel it in the tightening of your chest, the quickening of your pulse, the subtle vibration that hums through your core, signaling that the threshold is closer than it has ever been, and the next step, once taken, will alter everything. Your past. Every betrayal, every loss, every silent sacrifice converges at this precipice, a reminder that the endurance you cultivated was never wasted. It was the preparation for a revelation, one that is approaching with the inevitability of sunrise after a night too long. The shadow that has followed you begins to speak, not in words but in resonance, revealing the contours of unseen doors and hidden keys, of alignments the world will not acknowledge, and the spiritual currents in which you have swum unnoticed are beginning to lift, drawing you toward the edge where preparation meets destiny, where quiet patience becomes monumental awakening. Remain connected here, your path is shifting. Every instinct, every whispered intuition, every moment of discomfort that seemed purposeless is a signal, a marker, a thread guiding you to an unveiling. The storm intensifies, the shadows deepen, the mountain rises, and yet within the pressure lies the seed of your triumph, vibrating with the precision of the unseen and the sacred. The key is almost entirely revealed, the door's light now shimmering through the cracks of your perception, and your spirit leans forward, trembling with anticipation at the final alignment that approaches like a tide no human hand could hold back. The final currents are gathering. The alignment of timing, endurance, shadow, and intuition is nearly complete. Your heart, your mind, your spirit all pulse in synchrony with a frequency that is older than you are, a frequency that resonates with Joseph's chains and triumph, with David's sling and destiny, with Oprah's waiting and rise, with the countless unknown December Capricorns who carried the weight of worlds in silence. And as the key turns, as the mountain breathes beneath you, as the storm bends to the rhythm of your ascent, the universe holds its breath, waiting for your recognition, your acceptance, your movement forward, because the revelation poised to break upon you is not only your own, but something the world has awaited without knowing it. The shadow leans closer, the wind sharpens its voice, and the key, long hidden, whispers against the lock with the certainty of inevitability. The energy around you coils, dense and electric, every atom attuned to the secret that is about to pass from potential into reality, every step, every choice, every ounce of endurance converging at a point you have always sensed but never fully comprehended, and as the first light of understanding grazes the edge of your awareness, the storm, the mountain, the shadows, the keys, the doors, they all pause, suspended in anticipation. Waiting for the moment, your spirit finally speaks aloud what it has always known in silence. The air tightens, the universe leans in, and in that sacred pause, the first word of a truth long concealed begins to echo in your soul, so powerful it shakes the foundations of everything you thought permanent. The cold settles into your bones before the mind even registers it, an invisible frost that traces the outlines of your soul, pressing against you with the weight of unseen expectations, of histories you carry and do not remember, of burdens whispered into your DNA before you drew your first breath. The shadows of those who walked before you linger in the air, stretching across walls, curling into corners, touching your awareness in ways both terrifying and familiar. Every step you have taken has been measured against a quiet, unspoken standard, a standard set by ancestors, by the universe, by forces older than the stars themselves. If your spirit feels this awakening, stay close, for the air around you is thick with preparation, and the first stirrings of revelation hum like a hidden heartbeat beneath the chest of the world. The mountains in your life have never been gentle teachers. They rise jagged and silent, their peaks shrouded in mist, their slopes littered with stones sharp enough to draw blood, and yet you have climbed them, often alone, often unnoticed, often wondering whether anyone would ever see the effort it took just to move upward at all. There are moments where the wind carries the voices of others, voices that laughed at your slow steps, that whispered doubts, that offered hollow encouragement, but each sound only reinforced a lesson etched deep into your marrow, that endurance is the currency of the December-born Capricorn, that resilience is forged in the cold, that victory is earned in silence. And now, those peaks are gathering clouds that feel alive, pressing against the sky, waiting for something only you can release. Your life has always been a series of storms, not the kind announced by thunder, but storms that erupt within the mind, within the chest, within the quiet spaces of your home where no one can see the battle being fought. Oprah Winfrey carried the weight of poverty, of rejection, of trauma, through years that no one else witnessed, preparing for a moment of global significance that seemed impossible until it arrived. Your path mirrors that rhythm, though the storm sometimes makes you doubt whether the sunlight you crave is meant for you at all. Every sleepless night, every moment of sacrifice, every instance you told yourself you would carry on alone, these were not accidents, but carefully constructed lessons in spiritual fortitude. And now, the wind stirs differently. It carries a promise that the storm is not simply a test, it is a harbinger. The shadows you have carried are not mere absence of light, but active entities, moving with intent, shaping the very way you perceive the world. They taught you discretion, taught you strategy, taught you the silent art of noticing what others do not. There is a protective quality in your shadow, a wisdom that knows when to push and when to retreat, when to speak and when to remain still. History remembers those who mastered such shadows, Moses standing before the burning bush, David with his sling poised against Goliath, LeBron James commanding a team with the weight of expectation upon his shoulders. But it does not tell the story of the quiet hours, the whispered prayers, the loneliness that carved the precision into their souls. That same precision hums within you now, vibrating against your awareness, waiting for the moment when it will be needed most. The keys you have carried, long hidden in pockets of awareness, begin to tingle against the edges of your consciousness. They have been forged in trials, polished by patience, and hidden behind doors you did not know existed. Each locked door in your life was never a denial but a preparation, a test to see whether you could recognize the weight of what is about to be revealed. Dwayne Johnson, sleeping on floors with nothing but dreams, held the key to his destiny in the shape of relentless persistence, and your journey mirrors that subtle, silent accumulation of readiness. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every moment you were forced to stand alone in the dark has been turning the key in a lock that is nearly ready to open. Your endurance has been misunderstood. Others see strength in your silence, in your calm exterior, in the way you move through life without complaint, but they do not see the tremors beneath the surface, the nights spent reconciling your hopes with harsh reality, the prayers whispered into the dark that demanded more than your heart felt it could give. Martin Luther King Jr. bore the agony of a nation with a composure that seemed supernatural, and every December Capricorn carries a trace of that same hidden resolve, a quiet gravity that compels even the unobservant to feel something sacred in your presence, even when no recognition is offered. The tension of this hidden power is now intensifying, pulling your awareness into a rhythm that is not of the human world. Every decision you thought was mundane has been a pivot point, every intersection a crossroads unseen. Life has presented these not as guidance, but as challenge, a relentless testing of whether your intuition is strong enough to navigate without the crutches the world offers to others. The pattern repeats, the wind shifts, the storm rises, shadows lengthen, and you respond quietly, deliberately, with an accuracy that surprises even you. This pattern is now accelerating, the cycles compressing, the energy around you tightening like a coiled spring, signaling that the next step will not merely alter your path, but transform the very ground upon which you have walked. Your relationships have always carried a duality, a pull between deep attachment and protective distance. You love fiercely, often silently, often giving more than can be seen or reciprocated. You have attracted people who require your strength, your stability, your quiet insight, and in doing so you have been tested again and again, each time refining your capacity to see what is true, what is permanent, what is worthy. The spiritual structure of your heart has been constructed in secret, with materials no one else can perceive, and now that structure hums with readiness, vibrating in alignment with forces you have felt since childhood, but never named. Every unfinished journey in your past carries a lesson in disguise, a map written in the language of shadow and endurance. You have circled mountains, returned to valleys, passed through rooms that seemed familiar yet different each time, and all along, the universe has been arranging these steps for a moment that has finally approached. Your instincts, long trained by silence and hardship, recognize the convergence even before your mind does. There is an almost imperceptible pull, a current beneath the surface of reality, drawing you toward a door that has existed in parallel with your life all along, a door that will not open for the unprepared. The mountain ahead rises more sharply now, its peaks piercing clouds that swirl with anticipation. The storm gathers strength, not to destroy, but to sanctify, to illuminate, to purify what has been obscured. The shadows behind you stretch longer, reaching forward to meet the wind and the mountain, as if conspiring with unseen forces to orchestrate a revelation. Your body tenses as if it senses the pressure, your heart quickens, your breath carries a subtle rhythm that matches the unfolding energy. This is not ordinary. This is a precise alignment of everything you have endured, everything you have learned, and everything you are about to become. Keys vibrate at the edges of perception, doors shimmer with an almost tangible aura, and the unseen currents around you twist in anticipation. Every whispered doubt you ever carried, every silent tear, every moment you wished for intervention, all of it converges here. Your shadow leans closer, not threatening, but attentive, waiting to guide the next movement, and your spirit, which has borne storms invisible to others, feels the resonance of forces older than history itself. The mountain, the storm, the shadows, the keys, the doors, they all pause, suspended in a delicate tension, awaiting the first movement of a recognition that will shift the axis of your reality. Remain connected here, your path is shifting. The breath of the universe brushes against you, carrying vibrations of Joseph's chains and triumph, David's sling and destiny, opera's waiting and rise. Every element of your past, every storm endured, every shadow navigated, has led to this convergence. The pressure grows, the wind sharpens, the mountain waits, and within the pause, the sacred whisper begins to emerge, resonating across the corridors of your spirit, vibrating through every cell that has been prepared to receive it. The energy coils, tight and electric, each heartbeat a signal, each exhale a tether pulling you toward the hidden revelation. Time seems to compress, the currents of destiny intersecting at the apex of your endurance, and the air hums with a frequency that is both ancient and immediate, a vibration that speaks to what has always been yours but never acknowledged. And then at the threshold of the threshold, where shadow, storm, and mountain converge, where every key and every locked door align, a presence manifests, not distant but intimate, not abstract but palpable, ready to deliver the first fragment of the truth your soul has waited a lifetime to recognize. The pause deepens, the storm braces, the mountain exhales, and in that silence, the first syllable of revelation passes through the atmosphere, vibrating directly into your spirit, trembling with the intensity of what is coming, a soundless echo that promises to reshape everything in a moment that is already unfolding.